So we had the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, and my mind was blown. They showed so many games, so much cool hardware features, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I was really excited going into it. And I think what was really clear from this was the tone of Nintendo going forward. I feel like I could give my thoughts on these games and everything, but I kind of want to put down how I think the Nintendo Switch 2 era is going to go based on this, because I feel like Nintendo showed their hand a bit with their attitude, tone, and policies moving forward. First and foremost, they're extremely confident. You saw that intro to the Direct. They are just really excited to show all this stuff they got, and they just know we're gonna love it and lose our minds. And that's usually the case, but I feel like it was very much seen here, especially with pricing, but we'll get to that later. What's clear is that they're taking the Switch, improving on its weaknesses, and trying to make it just a better Switch overall. They're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You know, I read the developer directs, and they said that a lot of their Nintendo consoles had these crazy new changes, and they decided that for this, there wasn't anything really coming to mind, and they didn't want to make change just to be someone who makes change. So they just made some slight differences and improved the current model, and I think that paid off a lot here. I think Nintendo is going for a very business approach, which they've done for most of the Switch era as well. Just looking at things more as a business than as this place that needs to do something unique and fun and interesting. They just want to do something effective and intuitive and something that makes sense in the business. And with the 3 people in charge they showed, they're young, and they will probably offer a fresh view closer to the core gamer demographic, which is really cool. I feel like a lot of the seniors at Nintendo kind of have weird, specific tastes. I'm talking about you, Miyamoto, that might not work for a whole platform. You know, Miyamoto is really good for stuff like Pikmin, but I feel like you want someone young to rule the platform. With this new feature with the C button, I think they're going to focus a lot on multiplayer. Let's get this out of the way. The price. The Switch itself is going to be $450 in the US, which is higher than what people thought, being $400. But to me, I feel like it kind of makes sense. As I was watching the trailers, seeing the 1080p screen, that's 120 hertz HDR, and then you can play games at 4K 60, I feel like it was going to be expensive, and it makes sense. It seems to be high-end hardware. That being said, I really hope we don't get stupid stuff like Joy-Con drift and aging hardware stuff, and I hope it takes a while to get third-party games to run poorly. We also saw the game prices hike. I was expecting $70, which we got with the games like Donkey Kong, but Mario Kart is quite high at $80, and if you recall, Nintendo just did this a couple years ago with Tears of the Kingdom being $70 for no reason. It seems like for a while they've been pricing games kind of how they feel like it, and I feel like they've gotten away with it. Core Nintendo fans are going to get this game no matter what. It's Mario Kart. It's an essential. You're going to play it throughout the whole generation, so someone like me is totally going to buy that for $80, but I'm curious if this is going to stunt the sales. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold so well, and I think part of that was because it was just a fun, accessible game. And this being $80, especially if millions of people remember this being $60, I don't know if it's going to sell that well. But then again, it is Mario Kart, so I feel like a lot of consumers just don't have a choice and are going to get it anyway. Also, the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is clearly a tech demo and a very small experience, is paid as a digital download, and I just feel like that's like, why would they do that? With this one, it makes even less sense, because I was looking at it, I figured it was a pack-in title. It didn't even look that interesting to me. There's some cool tech demos, but it didn't seem all that interesting, and they want me to buy it? Like, of course not. I think this is confident Nintendo era, and they feel like they could do a lot because they know their audience is so ingrained into Nintendo, and I think they gotta be careful with that. But at the end of the day, they have to run a business, and they have to understand the demand of some of these projects. So, of course they're gonna raise the prices. I think another important thing to talk about is the tariff situation in the US. Foreign goods are just gonna be more expensive. Money is worth less. So prices are gonna go up, and it stinks, but I feel like it's part of the industry, and companies have to choose where they make up that money that they're going to suddenly have to pay for trade, and unfortunately a lot of companies are just going to put it on the consumer. I will say Nintendo has been doing some interesting, kind of innovative, consumer-friendly things. The digital game card was shown to us in March. This is just a great feature to incentivize digital gaming, which is obviously beneficial to them as a business, but it's also consumer friendly because you could utilize that software in more ways without having to buy it again. Same with game sharing. If you could do multiplayer with only one copy, that's really good for the consumer and prevents Nintendo from making more money. They also added more to Nintendo Switch Online, like GameCube support, and adding the Zelda upgrades to that if you have the membership, which is just cool. They don't need to do that. $50 a year is still so low considering everything it comes with. So the fact that they're still supporting that and not taking away old features, not increasing the price, I would say that's pretty pro-consumer. I'd say overall, they're not being greedy, they're more just considering the demand of these products, especially with Mario Kart being so substantial it seems, and we're gonna have a direct all about it. So I think we'll see some questionable decisions because it'll be more beneficial to their business as opposed to us consumers, and we may have to deal with that a lot during this generation. Lastly, I think the third-party support is outstanding. The Wii U had terrible third-party support. No one wanted their hands on their thing. The Switch, I feel like people were still a little skeptical because of the Wii U, but by the end we got some more support. But with the Switch 2 now, it seems like these third parties are jumping at the Switch 2 like crazy. We have the Dark Bloods from Software being an exclusive From Software game on Switch. That's just insane, unheard of. From Software has had stuff with like PlayStation in the past with Bloodborne, and this almost looks like a Bloodborne sequel, but not using the IP. So them prioritizing Switch is just crazy. All these games are coming, and it seems like these publishers are genuinely super excited. There's a focus on the actual people presenting the games instead of just trailers, which showed how proud they were to be a part of Nintendo. Even EA had their full commitment of their sports games with this. They notably ditched the Wii U and didn't have too much support on Switch, so them being proud and committing to Switch 2 is huge. So overall, I'd say Nintendo is entering their confident era. They know they want to do some big things. They know they could charge us money for things we really want. Game prices are jumping up along with development prices from the game developers with these new specs that we're targeting. We're going to get more multiplayer focused games. Maybe we'll get some more consumer friendly stuff, but who knows. And we can expect some cool third party support going forward. I mean, come on, we got Elden Ring, Cyberpunk, a new FromSoft game. Like, these are big hitters. Final Fantasy VII Remake. Anyways, let me know your thoughts about how Nintendo is going to treat the Switch 2 era. It's had an interesting start so far with these super cool game announcements, but prices leave a lot of people a little concerned. Leave a like if you liked, dislike if you didn't, and consider subscribing to Here Goes Nothing.